Okay, so we are all about self-improvement,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
who isn't? And we just finished listening to this podcast episode called Unlocking Your True Potential
Mm-hmm.
with this coach, David Carter.
Yeah.
And wow, he had some seriously interesting ideas about how to like seriously level up in life. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of like go through some of his key takeaways
Yeah.
and see what actually resonates with you. Like, what can we all learn from this?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I found so fascinating was Carter's take on, personality development, because a
Mhm.
lot of people think that means like changing who you are, right?
Yeah.
But he's really emphasizing that it's more about becoming your best self, not trying to be somebody
It's
else.
like, I don't know, it's like taking what you already have and making it shine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like polishing a diamond to reveal its brilliance.
I like that.
Yeah. He also talked about how it's a continual process, right? Like you don't just hit peak potential and that's it.
Right, right.
You're always kind of striving to become the best version of yourself. And 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 I think the exciting part is that it's a skill that can be developed at any age.
That's so true. It's never too late.
It's never too late. Exactly.
So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, I think, he dives into several key areas,
Yeah.
but the one that really stood out to me was confidence building. He had this great tip about, stepping outside your comfort zone.
I love that. Such good advice.
It is. It's so important, right? And it's about pushing yourself to do things that make you a little bit uneasy, maybe even a little scared,
Right.
because that's where the growth happens, right? When we challenge ourselves, when we push past those boundaries.
It's easy to get stuck in a rut. You know what I mean?
It is. It is.
So it makes you think, like, what is it that makes you hesitate?
Mm-hmm.
What are those things you're avoiding? And then how can you, like, take those small steps?
Right.
He also talked about the importance of positive self-talk, which kind of sounds weird. But it's actually, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, you're basically talking to yourself in an encouraging way.
It might sound odd at first, but there's actually a psychological basis for it.
Yeah.
Our thoughts really do influence our feelings and behaviors. So if you're constantly putting yourself down,
Right.
that's going to have a negative impact.
Absolutely.
But if you can cultivate a more positive internal dialogue,
Yeah.
that can really impact how you perceive yourself and how you interact with the world.
And he also mentioned being mindful of your body language too, because that plays a role too, right?
Oh, absolutely. How you carry yourself can also influence your confidence levels.
It's almost like, I don't know, have you ever noticed that, like, if you kind of stand up taller, you automatically kind of feel a little bit more confident?
It's incredible how interconnected our minds and bodies are,
It is.
When you stand tall, you make eye contact, you smile, it not only projects confidence to others, but it also sends signals to your brain, reinforcing those feelings. It's like you're creating a positive feedback loop.
So competence, I mean, that's a huge part of just everything,
It
right?
really is, yeah.
But Carter also talks about communication
Yeah.
as being a key skill for personal development.
Yes. And, it's interesting because he really zeroed in on this idea of listening. He argued that truly effective communicators are actually exceptional listeners. It's not just about waiting for your turn to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's about really engaging with what the other person is saying, absorbing their words, trying to understand their perspective. And it's something to think about,
It really is.
When you're having a conversation, how much are you actually listening
Right.
versus just thinking about what you're going to say next? It's something we can all work on, I think.
For sure.
And he also gave some good practical tips, like speaking clearly, slowly, avoiding those filler words.
It's like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he even challenged us to record ourselves speaking to identify areas for improvement.
It's funny. I've heard other people say that too. And I'm always like, oh, I don't know. But it's probably a good idea, right?
It probably is.
It's a reminder that communication, just like anything else, is a skill you can improve on.
Definitely.
And it's so important in, all aspects of life, right?
Absolutely.
For building good relationships, being successful at work, everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've talked about confidence, communication, and then there's this other big one that I think we all struggle with, which is the fear of failure. It holds so many people back.
It does. It's such a universal experience, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone feels that fear at some point.
And Carter acknowledges that, but then he gives some really practical strategies for dealing with it, which is great.
Yes. What stood out to me was his emphasis on reframing failure
Oh,
as a learning opportunity. It's easy to see setbacks as defeats, but he's encouraging us to look at them as valuable feedback.
right. So it's not about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that even successful people fail, right?
All the time.
But they view it differently.
Right.
They learn from their mistakes and they keep moving forward.
He also mentioned that it's helpful to break big goals down into smaller steps, which I thought was really good advice.
Yes. It can feel so overwhelming, right?
Totally.
If you're just looking at this huge mountain you have to climb. But if you break it down into those smaller, more manageable steps,
Yeah.
it becomes less daunting. And it actually increases the likelihood of success.
It's like you're creating a roadmap, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having that support network is important too.
Oh, for sure.
He talked about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you,
Yeah.
who encourage your growth. It makes such a difference.
Finding those people who are your cheerleaders, basically.
Yes, exactly.
And, I'm kind of curious about this last tip he had. It was about reading, which I love to do.
Me too. Me too.
But I'm curious what he said about it.
Yeah, he suggests dedicating just 15 minutes a day to reading, which doesn't sound like a lot.
It's not.
But he believes it can have such a profound impact on personal development.
What does he say about that? Like, how does that help?
He's saying that, reading expands your knowledge. It exposes you to new ideas, new perspectives.
Right?
Helps you develop your vocabulary, your communication skills. It's like a workout for your brain.
No, I like that. It's like a brain workout. That's good.
Yeah, strengthening those cognitive abilities and helping you become a more well-rounded person.
It's amazing how much, just reading can help, right?
It is. It is. And he actually believes that it can boost your confidence, too.
Really?
Yeah, and improve your ability to connect with others.
Yeah.
Because you're expanding your horizons, you're becoming more comfortable in your own skin.
It's like you're opening up all these possibilities.
Exactly, yeah.
Just by reading.
Right.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, and it makes you a more interesting person to be around, too, right?
Definitely.
Because you have more to talk about, you have different perspectives.
And so is there a way for people to connect with David Carter directly? Like if they wanted to hear more from him?
Yeah, he actually mentioned that listeners can find him on social media. He seems like he's really passionate about helping people.
Oh, that's great.
Unlock their potential and sharing his insights with a wider audience.
Yeah, he really seems to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so let's kind of recap what we've talked about so far, because it's a lot,
Mm-hmm.
We've learned that anyone can cultivate a strong personality.
Right.
It's not about changing who you are. It's about bringing out your best self.
Exactly.
And a big part of that is building that confidence. But it's not just about positive thinking. It's about actually taking action.
Yes.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Using your body language.
Exactly.
Projecting confidence,
Right.
even if you don't quite feel it yet.
Fake it till you make it sometimes.
Yeah, right. And then we talked about communication, which is so important.
It is, yeah.
And the importance of really listening, speaking clearly, practicing those skills.
Regularly.
And then, of course, that big one, the fear of failure.
It's a hurdle we all face, right?
But it's about reframing that failure as a learning experience.
Exactly.
And then breaking down those big goals into smaller steps.
And surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Yeah.
Because they can really make a difference.
Huge difference, for sure. And then, who knew? Something as simple as reading for 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one.
I know, it sounds almost too easy, right?
It does. But it can really make a big impact.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it can help with all aspects of personal development. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. I think a lot of us underestimate the power of reading.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about confidence, we've talked about communication, fear of failure, and reading.
Mm.
What else? Like, what other kind of roadblocks do you think people might face, when they're on this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one that comes to mind right away is self-doubt. It's that voice in your head
Oh, yeah.
that tells you you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or you can't do it.
It's like that little gremlin on your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be so insidious, right? Because it can really prevent us from going after what we want in life.
It really can.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there. So how do we, combat that? Any tips?
Well, first, I think it's important to remember that those negative thoughts are just thoughts,
Right.
They're not necessarily true. It's so easy to believe them.